Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sugar Diaries. The Sugar Diaries is our interview series that we run at Blue Circle Diabetes Foundation. And today we have with us Dr. Roshni Sanghani. Welcome, Doc. Dr. Sanghani is an American board certified endocrinologist, and she practices in Mumbai. She's also a hormone specialist. And today, Rohan and I are going to be talking to her about using low carb as a tool for managing diabetes. And we're really excited. And if you're a person with diabetes, you'll understand why. So let's jump right in and big welcome again, Doc.
Thanks, Nupur
Welcome,
and
doctor.
Rohan. Thank you.
So, doctor, the first thing that I wanted to know, why should a person with diabetes follow low carb?
Okay, that's a good question. This is a condition that some of us live with, whether it's type 1 or type 2. But when it comes to carbohydrates, once you eat them, they always get digested into sugar, into glucose. So the more carbohydrates a person eats, it directly translates into blood sugar. Now, if I'm the doctor treating somebody who eats a lot of carbohydrates, I'm trained with how to keep increasing the medication. But if we talk from a lifestyle change or a diabetes education perspective, it's important for the client, the patient, to know that if I reduce my carbohydrates, my medication burden can go down. And I've not met anybody in life or in my practice, I like it. Everybody wants to be on less medication. So it's actually in the American Diabetes Association guidelines. 2020 guidelines have written it down in clear language that if somebody practices low carb, they can be on less medication and their blood sugars would still be better. So that's probably the best reason I can think of to go low carb.
Doc, next question is can a person with any type of diabetes do low carb, type 1, type 2, gestational, any other?
Absolutely, because if we remember what we think of diabetes, the way it gets diagnosed is high blood sugar, whether it's type 1, whether it's type 2, whether it's gestational, we're looking at the blood sugar readings. So yes, every form of diabetes will benefit from a low carbohydrate approach. Where it gets a bit tricky and it needs to be medically supervised, if you are on medications, if you are on prescriptions, then your doctor needs to know that you're about to go
Right.
low carb. Because remember, high carb, high medication. If suddenly the patient goes low
Mhm.
carb and it's still high medication, this patient will get a low blood sugar. So you're at risk of that. So you can do it, but you would need to have your doctor on board to work with you to reduce the doses of your diabetes
And
Thank you.
medications.
Rohan, I just want to take a second here to mention to all our viewers that Rohan and I live with type 1 diabetes, and the both of us also do low carb. So we follow Dr. Bernstein's protocol, and like Dr. Sangani mentioned as well, any type of person, any type of diabetes, you can still do low carb.
right.
Yes. In fact, I might go so far as to say that even in type 1 diabetes, where we feel the person is going to be on insulin forever, anyways, so let them just eat what they want and just take accordingly insulin. But there's a serious problem with that approach. Is I've seen type 1, somebody with type 1 having all the problems of type 2 because they're on too much insulin. Remember, well, it's a bit technical, but having too much insulin on board is a characteristic of type 2. And I could do that to someone with type 1, but by just only using insulin as the only thing I know to bring a blood sugar down, even in somebody with type 1. So it's very important to know that there are health risks to having too much insulin. As much as insulin is a life saving hormone, it can also be a dangerous hormone. Anything in too much excess, even if it's good, can be problematic. So having that good understanding of insulin as a hormone is very important to manage with a low carb
Thank you,
approach.
Doc. That really helps because I think double diabetes is something that I've read about, and it sounds pretty scary. A lot of people with type 1 are now also getting obese and overweight, and that's a whole new problem.
Yes.
And doctor, you also mentioned someone on high carb, then going on to a low carb. So what I personally did, I moved very gradually from high carb to low carb. So I started with around 200 grams of carbohydrates. reducing with 30, 40, and then coming to 60. So it took me around 1 year to do that. So do you suggest that's a good way of going with that? Because I could not sustain going from 180 to 100 to
Right.
50 or 60.
Correct. Yeah, it's a brilliant question, Rohan, and I think this is very individual. People have done it overnight, cold
Mm.
turkey. Of course, with the understanding of the medication adjustment, that being aside, even if you do it with that safety net, you could go through what we call a keto flu, and that's the whole carbohydrate withdrawal, where suddenly instead of burning sugar, your body has to learn how to burn fat. That's a good thing from a metabolism point of view, but if it happens all of a sudden to the body, it can survive, it can manage, but you may be uncomfortable for about 2 weeks. And it comes to the sustainability part of it. You might do it like stand like this for 2 weeks, but how do you live like that for the rest of your life? So if you've done it in small increments, chances are it'll become part of your day-to-day routine, and by the end of the time frame, it'll be the new you, and you wouldn't feel restricted or pinched in any way. The psychological
Yeah.
cooperation is there from inside, and you're not rebelling against the plan. And so maybe it doesn't need a whole year. So like for example, in our practice, we managed to do this over a period of weeks, and with some supervision on electrolytes and things like that, you can get there. But I think sustainability is a very important part. It's not a race. There's no award at the end of the day. It's for your well-being. So we need to put sustainability into the picture.
Yeah. Just on the point of sustainability, then how sustainable is this diet with our daily Indian foods, which are almost all are high carb?
It's a very good question. I think we don't need to be perfect. Perfection is not required. Perfection is not possible. Perfection is unrealistic. So even I use this example of cricket. Virat Kohli sometimes goes for a duck. Djokovic sometimes goes out in the first set of a final at
Hmm.
6 love. So, you know, you will have your days, your challenges. But what I think marks someone who has a successful approach is someone who's
Hmm.
consistent. Okay, so you may not be low carb every single day. Maybe you go out, maybe you socialize, you go to someone's house and they've decided the menu. You go for weddings and trips abroad, and you're vegetarian. You have preferences in your own household. I'm Gujarati, and my food does not look like a normal guju. And people look at me and they say, "You don't look guju. Where's that round shape?" So and maybe because I don't eat like a typical
Yeah.
guju anymore, right? So some of it is holding on to my Indianness, knowing where some of my Indianness is preventing me from getting better health. So, sometimes people will resist the idea of change, saying that's not who I am. So the person has to decide how much of me do I want to keep versus change. Because yes, vegetarian Indian approach is high carb. Even if I say go for
Hmm.
dal for
Right.
protein, dal is 65% carbohydrate. For every 100
Right.
grams, 65 grams is carb. So when they're doing that, I might say, can you reduce the rice? Or can you reduce, if it's chole paratha, can you do more chole, less
Hmm.
paratha? So there are ways to be sustainable with the Indian approach. On most buffets in India, you can select less
Right.
carbs if we give you that pair of glasses, like how do you scan for low carb options being vegetarian? You can.
Thank you, Doc. That was also something I was going to ask you next. How do people with who are vegetarian, how do they ensure that they do low carb sustainably? And another
Yeah.
sub question is that how do you ensure you get your protein in? Because being vegetarian, you have limited options.
Yes. True. And this is a very classic problem. And I would like to make a stretch and make a big statement here is that probably one of the reasons India is leading the diabetes epidemic, something has to do with our vegetarian high carb approach. It's not only genetics, it's genetics. Being that I have diabetes in my family tree, I reached pre diabetes and came back. So my genetics has not changed. But going low carb and building muscle has helped me work with my genetics to be in a safer place. So, it is important to know that when you're making choices. And let's talk about something like upma. Upma, how do you change upma so that it's sustainable? Maybe you go for a little less of the rava and you add more peanuts and you add more coconut and you cook it with a little bit more ghee or peanut oil or something, so it's feeling full and satisfying, and you get more protein when you do that. You could, and even in upma, there's actually a tadka of the urad dal and the chana dal. Put in a few more grains of that. Maybe it gets a bit more crunchy. It's not like your fluffy upma that just melts in your mouth. But melt in your mouth carbohydrates are high-speed sugar rise anyway, right? So making a small change, adding protein, adding fat. We prefer that you get your protein from food first,
Right.
as a first choice from real food. Sometimes, though, being vegetarian, you may need to take a protein supplement. Okay. And this is not that we are telling people to go high protein. Again,
Mm.
in India, I'm talking from the Indian context, we are very fearful of protein, unfortunately, that you're suggesting high
Mm.
protein. Okay. But it's like a number line, there's something called low, there's something called normal, and there's something called high. Just because normal is higher than low doesn't mean
Right.
normal is high. So if you need 40 grams of protein a day based on your height and weight, or 50 grams of protein based on your height and weight, and today you're at 20, that's malnourishment. So that's dangerous. Everybody is familiar with the question of, is high protein dangerous? Nobody's asking the question, is low protein dangerous? Low protein is very dangerous. So you have to help people understand that going from 20 grams to 40 or 50 as per your weight is not high. Maybe if I take you to 100 grams of protein a day, maybe we're going in the high range, but that's not necessary. So, I'm going in a circular way to answer your question, is we want sufficient protein. First, try from whole foods. And if you cannot get there because of vegetarian restrictions on how much dal you can eat, you may need a
And doc, there's only so much you can eat, right? Even if it's high protein, it's not physically possible to eat beyond a point. So
Protein is too much protein, is what I want.
Okay, so a high protein would be something like 1.5 to 2 grams per kg reference body weight. So if I'm 55 kg, multiplying by 2, so 110 grams,
Mhm.
that's high protein. But a reasonable amount of protein could be 0.8. Let's at least get all of India to 0.8. 0.8 multiplied by 55 is like 40, 44
And
grams.
my friends, they are into bodybuilding, and what they want to do is pile up on protein, take more supplements. Does it help? Does more protein help build you more body, or it goes to waste?
Okay, so bodybuilding is a very small population. But let's talk about normal
Right.
humans. All of us, you, me, we're sitting in chairs all day. When we're 65, we'll slip in the bathroom because the floor is wet. Let's talk about, why do those folks or sedentary office desk bound people, why are they not interested in building muscle? It's not only for
yeah.
bodybuilders. You and I need muscle if we want to lift the suitcase out of the storage and take it to the airport. You and I need to be able to open the drawer where the bedding and the gadda is
Right.
stored at night. We need proper healthy muscles for that. It's not for bodybuilders. Let's not get distracted with this topic of bodybuilders. For them, they might need higher protein. And as long as they have a healthy kidney and healthy hydration, they can actually take it. There are some people with type 1 who have
Right.
amazing physiques and they eat a lot of protein, but they have a nutritional metabolic
Mhm.
match for that. So, but in talking about them, lay people like us miss
Right.
out on our basics. So, there's this fantastic video by Ted Naiman saying that even a type 2 diabetes, somebody living with type 2 diabetes, is also doing bodybuilding. They are building a body that is high in
Mm.
fat. They are also doing
Correct.
bodybuilding. All of us are building some
Yes.
body. So let's get out of this stereotype कि मेरे को तो I don't want to go to gym and all. अभी इस what in this, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm using Hindi here, but इस उम्र में क्या
Mm.
bodybuilding? No, don't you want to be healthy, fit and strong? You're the one saying you have aches and pains. So let's talk about the dangers of not enough protein before we say bodybuilding is not good. We need to shift the
That's a great
conversation.
point, Doc. In fact, I want to mention here that I've had type 1 for 25 years, and my parents were both pre-diabetic 2 years ago. My mother is vegetarian. She's in her 60s. And, I introduced my parents to low carb. My mother, in the last year and a half, has lost 15 kilos of weight. She doesn't need her BP meds anymore. Her thyroid meds have been cut down. So we can see it in real life. These are real people,
Exactly.
like Bob mentioned, it's not always
Exactly.
the other extreme about, just bodybuilding. Or most of the population is like us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are so many uses of protein in the body, whether it's hair, skin, nails,
Right.
immunity, aches and pains, poor muscle tone. All of this requires protein to be in the right amount. So we need to have more conversations about protein deficiency, because most of the meal plans that I see in India are highly, highly
Yes.
protein deficient. So let's get them to
Mhm.
sufficient first, and then we'll talk about
Makes sense.
overdose.
So I was just talking to a friend regarding my low carb diet, and he said, "बस इतने से कैसे होगा हमारा इतना कम कार्बोहाइड्रेट से?" And there are other common myths कि
Yeah,
पेट ही नहीं भरेगा इतने में तो there will be no energy in
correct.
me. So and people have this
Right,
mental block, right? Uh, so what do we do to convince them that?
correct. Well, I've realized with little bit more gray hair that you cannot convince somebody against their beliefs. It doesn't last, it's not sustainable. What you can do is maybe be a guide and say, yes, today you only know how to feel satisfied with your certain amount of carbohydrates. It's a habit. Habits can be changed. The choice remains with you whether you want to reduce your carbs or not. If you don't want to, let's not have this conversation. There's no need for me to try and get
Yeah.
your carbs low. Okay, so they need to know why should they even think about reducing carbs. Actually, when they work on it, they will find that with more protein and more fat, there is
Right.
better satisfaction, better fullness. The hormones of insulin and leptin get back to normal, and your satiety is actually better when you add more fat. But people have gone low fat for about 40 years now, thanks to some guidelines in the 1970s where they thought low fat was the
Yes.
way to go. And then they went high carb. So now we're saying low carb is the way to go. Get the right amount of healthy fats in, you will enjoy the flavor better, and you will feel that satisfaction. So it is a discussion that needs to be had in a proper way. And then what I ask people to do when I'm working with them is experiment. Try taking, instead of 2 kora chapatis,
Right.
make it 1 kora chapati. I mean, not 1 kora, 2 kora, make it one with lots of
All
ghee
right.
on top.
So what I did personally, I replaced my rotis with egg white omelette because I didn't have that. I wanted to have that psychological thing of eating a roti, so I would make an egg white omelette and just break it and eat it with sabji. So that also helps me.
That works. And again, I think a lot of Indian homes can do eggs. A lot of Indian homes don't do eggs at home. But now, because people are creative, they're finding low carb substitutes for roti. If you feel that I don't get that satisfaction till I break a
Yeah.
roti and have it, there are keto
Right.
roti recipes, there are low carb roti recipes, so that you get that sensation. But again, these are habits, right? So, I mean, if a habit is working for someone, they should keep it. If they want to change their habit, there are solutions available.
Correct. I think to sum it up, like if you want to see a different result, you have to do things differently, and you'll then be able to see it.
Exactly.
And as far as
Yes.
the question for lack of energy is concerned, so Roman was our crew member when the four type one, four of us, we walked 100 kilometers. So even Roman walked like 30-40 kilometers with us, and the rest of us walked 100. I did it on low carb, and I stuck to the same amount of carb. I probably increased my protein because I was hungrier. But there was no lack of energy. I wasn't dying. I'm here in front of you, and it was absolutely okay. In fact, I
Yeah.
had zero hypo and zero hyper incidents as well. Yeah,
More
yeah.
stable. Yes. Exactly. So it's in the mind. And unfortunately, it's not people's fault that they think this, because even today in the science textbooks of my kids are, studying in school, it says there in print carbohydrates are
Hmm.
energy giving foods. And we had a Times of India article a few days ago that talks about you need carbohydrates for energy. This is not true. This is not true. If you look at the nutritional guidelines from many international documents, they all say that there is no fixed amount of carbs that a person is required to eat for health. There is no essential carbohydrate. It's
Yeah.
even in the science books, in the scientific documents. But what the lay people are reading, I don't know who's in charge of printing these books. Everybody's reading that carbohydrates are a
Yeah.
source of energy,
Yes.
a necessary source of energy. So people are getting worried about losing
Hmm.
energy.
And I think even like you mentioned earlier, Doc, even the ADA now recognizes that low carb is an option to manage diabetes. If it's something that works for
Yes.
you, you should do it. For some reason, maybe it's not out there in the open as much. Which brings me to another little thing about a lot of people, a lot of healthcare professionals also mention that these are a lot of these things are fad diets. They're dangerous. I mean, we are talking a combination of experiential and scientific evidence, but somehow,
So, how come we're not saying that eating processed
Hmm.
cereal from boxes is a fad? Why aren't we calling that a
Right.
fad? Why is eating cornflakes not a fad?
correct.
Eating instant oats, why is that not a fad? Somebody put that idea in our head and now
Yeah,
we've accepted it.
Hmm.
So, you can repeat, there's a statement by Daniel Kahneman, I'm going to paraphrase, but he says that one of the easiest ways to make people believe in falsehood is to just keep repeating it. Because if you keep repeating something that's false, after a while, the brain cannot tell the difference between what is false
yeah,
and what is familiar. So if it sounds familiar, I'll accept it as true.
Right.
So having cereal in the morning is good for you. Everybody's been
Mm-hmm.
pounded with that message. Why is that not a fad?
correct.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
Processed food is the
true.
fad.
Yeah. All right. And there are some people who follow keto diet, right? And just for the viewers, how is keto diet different from low carb, and is keto safe?
Yeah. Oh, unfortunately, one
Right.
particular lady recently lost her life, and
Mm-hmm.
it was in the news. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a tragedy. We don't want anybody losing their life prematurely, but we don't know anything about her medical case. And the newspaper made
Keto
it
is
look
the
as though
culprit.
she died because of keto. That was very unfortunate journalism. That was I'm sorry, that journalism was very lacking in any scientific information. It was a sensational headline. It
Mm-hmm.
caught everybody's eye. No, I've not seen ketogenic approach to food kill anybody. I've not seen it make people sick. If you do anything out of balance, then that's different. But there's so many people sick from eating too many carbs, and yet we're all talking about keto being bad for you, right? The number of people who are sick from eating too many carbs far outnumbers maybe
Right.
some rare case where somebody misunderstood and
Correct.
did something wrong. So I think we need to be careful where we get led by media. And it's a difference of low carb versus ketos just in terms of the number of grams of carb per day. Now, in my practice, I don't require you to be keto,
Mm.
and it is a bit hard, I think, to sustain keto for the
Right.
rest of a person's life, especially if you're vegetarian. It's quite hard because it's going to be paneer and nuts and cheese and coconut, and you're going to really run out of options
Right.
for the rest of your life. So vegetarian keto is hard for the long term. So maybe low carb is good enough, which is maybe so keto is less than 50 grams of carb per day, which is quite restrictive. So one chapati is
Mm-hmm.
15 grams. One cup of rice is
Mm-hmm.
45 grams. Okay, so 50 is gone. One piece of fruit,
Right.
15 grams. So you've already finished your carbs between one chapati, one cup of rice, and one piece of fruit. You've already gone outside of keto. But you could still do low carb, and you could work with maybe
Right.
80 carbs a day. That's quite sustainable. My team, we all have managed, my family, we're all around that much. And the carbs that do come are complex carbs. Sometimes people make this, mental trade off that if I'm keto, then I can have sugar
Mm.
or I can have candy as my carb. So that's some mental just it's like I don't know what's happening in their mind. What's this negotiation? Because sugar causes all
Right.
sorts of problems. Fructose causes all sorts of problems. So when we're taking carbs, just because you're below 50, I don't want those carbs to be that you've earned 50 grams of sugar for
Yeah.
yourself, please. So I would rather see you at 80 grams of carb, where the carb
Right.
is complex carb. So what is complex carb? What comes from dals or a whole grain? Again, whole grain is a big scam. Huh? If you only read the label and it says whole grain, I've seen again whole grain cereal, whole grain bread,
Yeah.
which melts in your mouth. Please walk into the market and take a whole grain of jawar, whole grain of brown rice, and whole grain of wheat and put it on your tongue and see if it melts in your mouth. So you can take a whole grain and smash it to a powder and still put on the label that it's whole grain. So you mean it needs to be
Right.
whole food. Let it be a whole piece of food. And that's a
Right.
complex carbohydrate. You can take a complex carb and turn it into a simple carb and still call it a complex, because it
Yes.
used to be a complex carb.
It's very true what they say about sugar being the new cocaine, right? Like so addictive.
Oh yes. The new tobacco, yeah. Sugar is the new tobacco, the new cocaine, absolutely, because it's highly addictive, and unfortunately, tobacco and cocaine, alcohol, those are regulated. You can't give it to someone till they're 18, but sugar you can give them from
Yeah.
day one of life.
So
It's
just to
okay.
add to that question, some people have high percentage of fat in their diet. If we are talking about low carbohydrate
Yeah.
percentage, so if I'm at 20% carbs, I would probably have some people prefer to follow 70 to 80% fat diet to reduce their weight. Do you think that's sustainable? And how about like having a balance between protein, fat, and low carb?
Okay. So again, the high fat is going on
Right.
the lines of keto. And like I said, I don't require people to count their macros like that, counting how many percent. I've never done it myself. So, and I've not required it to be healthy. So, and if someone's like trying to get into some like very particular profession of like competitive photographs of their body, where certain shape or anatomy is part of the look on the camera or something, then you can put them through a very structured,
Right.
short term counting approach. But I don't think humans, you and me, have busy lives. We're going to keep counting percentages like that. We want
Yes.
variety. We don't want monotony. So I cannot see how we will sustain that.
Hmm.
There are people who just eat steak and
Right.
cover it with lots of oil and butter, and that's all they eat is a large amount of steak and eggs and
Mhm.
fish and eggs and chicken and eggs, and they're just eating protein and fat, and they're not missing their
Right.
carbs, and they're very happy. They call
Right.
themselves carnivores. If they're happy with carnivore approach, that's great. I have not seen it successfully being done
Mhm.
in the Indian context. Culturally, I don't think Indians are aligned with that, and it's not necessary. What is the goal? Why go for 70% fat
Yeah.
and 20% protein? Let's remind
Got
ourselves of the goal. And there are probably more sustainable ways of achieving the goal without getting too caught
Correct.
up in
right.
counting
And
macros.
thanks for breaking it down so simply, because sometimes what happens is with all the jargon and the words like, macros and carbohydrate and protein. I mean, for somebody who's new to this, it's like a lot of mumbo jumbo. And it makes it easy to
Yes, it
understand
is.
that, if you go with the whole foods approach, you reduce your carbs, that's a great start.
Yes.
Now, how do you go? I mean,
Yes.
what would you advise people who mention that there's family pressure or there's social or cultural pressure of eating in gatherings, or parents telling them that you're not getting enough food, things like that.
Also, like I was from a Punjabi household, so while I was at home, it was very difficult to do low carb because I kept seeing some or the other high carb food in front of my eyes always.
Yeah. So how did you
I
manage?
tried to reduce at that point, but when I moved out, then I could especially go into low carb. But living in a family where everyone is eating high carb, it's quite difficult.
It is difficult. So what starts to happen, and this is not just in carbohydrates, but what starts to happen in life in general, is once you start making a change, people around you can't help but change. If you matter to them, your change will start to
Yeah.
rub off on them, and they will get curious about what you're doing. So if you're feeling bad about it inside, then you might use the social gatherings as an excuse. Okay, let's say you're allergic to peanuts and you go to a wedding. Are you going to say, nahi, usko bura lag jayega, let me have peanuts? You are very clear that this is not
Yeah.
okay for my health. I'm not at this wedding to make them happy. My presence should be enough. Okay, so we sometimes exit from confrontation by saying it's difficult. Indians don't like confrontation, right? So push kiya, force kiya, and we love to push
Yeah.
food on people's plate. If I look back at how, even at my own wedding, how food was stuffed into each other's mouth as a part of celebration. This is the culture we have, and so I understand where it comes from. But now, and once in a lifetime, if that happens, fine. But if that's frequent, because we are social creatures, we will keep meeting. So if someone struggles with every weekend I go out and every weekend I cannot be the odd one out, I don't want to be the one creating a fuss. Okay, then don't create the fuss. Then make your choices and live with your choices. So people are confused in their head about their priorities. They're not sure why they want to do it. So it's easier to say, I gave in because of social pressure. I gave in because of in-laws or friends forced me. So I think, again, coming back to why, what we started this conversation with, until we are clear with our why, we will get distracted by the peer pressure. We will get distracted by the industry pressure. Our science books still say carbs are energy giving food. So there will always be a dialogue that supports my way of thinking. So it's up to me to change my way of thinking and find that like-minded environment, like what you all have created. More of us talking, making low carb accessible, friendly. And I'll tell you a joke. We have one client who started with us to go low carb, and through her, like 3-4 people in her family also got on board. And they're joking now that when they get married, they're going to call me and Trishala, my nutritionist and naturopath, that they'll have to come because so many people at this wedding are following their food plan. And then they went one step further. They said, you know what, we should ask them to be involved in the catering plan. That so many people need to be eating low carb. Why does the wedding food have to be high carb? So this is a shift in culture. Why does celebration have to be high carb? I understand carbs give us that instant gratification, instant reward. That's the whole addictive part. And I like my carbs once in a while, so it's not all or none. It's not zero or nothing, So I think finding balance is the way forward when you're in pressure situations where someone's forcing. Once in a while, enjoy. Once in a while, you have your boundaries and your preparation. If I'm going to Goa, for example, on a retreat with a bunch of families, I might have my protein shake in my room, might carry my nuts with me before I go to the pool side, and there's all the chakna makna waiting for my eyes to land on it. If I go hungry to a high carb environment, I'm creating a situation for myself. So there are ways to be clever about it. And that's what I think helps you manage social
And I think it all
situations.
boils down to, like you correctly mentioned, what you want to do. I mean, if you're convinced, you can achieve it. I remember one of the easiest things to understand was Dr. Bernstein's law of small numbers. So lesser carbohydrates, lesser insulin, lesser chance of hypos. If that's not a good motivation, then I really don't know what is, because I don't even need to bother checking my blood sugars. Nothing. I mean, I know I'm going to be rock steady.
Correct. So your life got easier, and yet, amazingly and sadly, people get stuck in the dialogue of, but I have a sweet tooth, but I have cravings. And they're in this conflict that I want a simpler, steadier life. I want more steady blood sugars, but there's a part of me that's going the other way. And that's where I think, so for you, it was easy because you had a lot of clarity about your priorities. And the people who are struggling, they're probably struggling because of a pull in both ways, where their goals are different and how they talk about themselves is different. So if I keep saying I'm Guju, so I have to have Guju food, I have to eat the Guju way, then that's what will happen. But if I reframe the way I talk about myself, I am a healthy Guju, not that healthy Guju, like that healthy Guju, okay, where I know how to balance my social situations. So the script has to change inside. How do I talk about myself? If I say I have a sweet tooth, I'm going to struggle every time I see sugar.
Doc, thank you so much for doing this with us. We've got one last question. It's an audience question.
Question is, I am a type 1 diabetic, stage 3 CKD. Creatinine is 3.5 and proteinuria is 2 plus. Can I do low carb?
Yes, you can. Even for CKD stage 3, your protein target is still 0.8 gram per kg per day. Talk to your nephrologist, get a clinical nutritionist to show you what that means. All nephrologists may not have read up on it, even if not 0.8, 0.7, 0.6 minimum. Even the most conservative of nephrologists, I have been able to talk to them at least 0.6. Okay, so please don't go lower than that on protein, and then you can be low carb with healthy fats.
All right.
Definitely,
Thank you.
you will need to see your doctor though, because your sugars for type 1 will have to be adjusted. The medicines will have to be, the insulin will have to be adjusted for sure, because when you have CKD, the insulin actually floats around for a longer time. So when you go low carb with CKD, you will have to aggressively reduce the insulin dose. So be careful. I'm definitely not giving medical advice to you per se. I'm making a
Right.
Thank
general
Just
statement.
one more question I have. So when I started doing low carb, right, I used to have a lot of digestion issues. When I suddenly dropped from 180 to 50, 60 gram carb, so I had to reduce it gradually to be able to digest that food. So a lot of people complain
Yes.
about digestive problems. Uh, how to deal with that?
Yeah, correct. So that was also, I was thinking about that when Nupur said that it's sometimes hard to eat so much protein, and that's also this digestive issue, because especially plant-based protein comes with a lot of fiber, and so the fiber can, and pulses, for example, right? Beans, they have natural, those complex carbs. There are some complex sugars in there, which when they reach the lower intestines, the bacteria start to break it down. They start to work with the fiber, and they can generate some gas, and that's normal. So that's a normal response. Okay, so probably when you went from 180, you took out 40 grams, 40 grams, 40 grams, you went slowly, slowly, slowly. You're giving your digestive system and the bacteria in your gut time to change
Right.
the population. I like to talk about this. I say this example a lot. Is like you're changing government. Elections have happened, and an old government is leaving and a new government is coming. So there will be that changing time when
Mm-hmm.
things are awkward. So putting in more fiber, more complex carbs, getting more protein, especially plant-based, you will have some digestive adjusting period. There are ways about it. You can go slow. You can like break it down through the day, through breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Right.
rather than all the protein at once. And if you slowly, slowly increase it, and once, if I'm doing it with a client, I will also
Right.
add intermittent fasting under a supervised way. That actually gives the gut a lot of help and time to reset things. So all the acidity, constipation, bloating, gas, everything settles because the body is built to thrive. So the body will take healthy food, whole foods, and learn to digest it. The body is very, very adaptive. It's been through a lot on planet Earth. So we have a very nice machine we've been
Thank you
given.
so much, Doc, for taking out the time today and doing this with us. And for all our viewers watching, I know this gives a lot of people hope. A lot of people are teetering on the edge. They're wondering, should I go ahead? Should I not? So we hope that our conversation today with Dr. Roshni Sanghani has convinced you that low carb is a doable, sustainable, healthy option that you can use in your life, and for not just for a person with diabetes, but for the whole family.
For everyone, for everyone. And I want to thank you guys for the work you're doing on your own time, working hard to put the message out. It's you're going above and beyond that. Whatever has helped you, let others also benefit from it. So thank you for what you guys do, and
Thank
I'm
you
happy
so